Jake Sullivan's not so ancient Chinese secrets, DroneDash coming here, old drug Olympics, and more. The Monica Perez Show starts now. If you don't like the commercials, I'm telling you right now, you can either tune in live. If you tune in live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, sometimes Facebook, always rockfin.com/Monica Perez. Yeah, that's all. But if you are listening on the podcast feed and you don't like the commercials, which is totally understandable, you can just hit premium subscribe on iTunes. It's $4.99 a month. I've begun to put some bonus material up there, some highlight reels that I do with other people. It's usually early release and definitely always commercial free. So hopefully that's something some people value. All right, so let's hit some stories. The first story today, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, really any time on it, except for to just point out that I had a little insight when I heard that Israel was hitting hard the West Bank in search of Hamas, of course, which I think isn't even supposedly really operates out of the West Bank. I don't know, but just in thinking of how the Israeli offensives are expanding kind of according to that Oded Yinon plan, which I think I've mentioned before. An advisor to the president back, or the prime minister, whatever it is, in the 80s said, we got to like take care of everybody on our borders, get back to the biblical boundaries of Israel, which I don't even know if that's real. I don't know what they were, so I can't validate it. And he was talking about hitting Syria, Lebanon, just a lot of the places that we have actually messed with since then. And right now they're doing Gaza, West Bank, Lebanon. Obviously, Syria has been going on for a long time. And as this push accelerates, despite international uproar, I'm thinking kind of like Scott Abrams that the next president, like, he thinks it's definitely going to be Trump, and the point is that like he will conduct this war, expand this war, finish this war on behalf of Israel. And I'm thinking it does seem like I always wonder, who are they going to select? Who's in the cards for the next president? I think they do a lot of campaigning and stuff because they want to, they need it to feel right. They can't just steal elections and not make it feel right. I mean, I guess they could do it for Rishi Sunak, but and they kind of gave the candidacy to Kamala without like a legit process, but they need to make it feel right. So who are they going to make it? Who do they want? They have to select, and they do the campaigning for that reason. But I think whoever they're going to select, whoever is going to escalate the Israel thing, like who's going to involve the US over there. And I feel like it would suit the powers that be to have Trump in there, because then the Democrats can maintain the moral high ground and you can continue to throw Republicans under the bus as the war party. Although obviously with what Biden's done in Ukraine, that is not true. But it seems to me that if I had to guess, that would be the most important factor that they're considering right now. Like, that is the operation that seems to be number one on the agenda. And my feeling, like the zeitgeist feels like it's Kamala. I just feel like that's the way it is, but it's probably because I live in California. But as far as agendas go, I would think it would be Trump. But another upside for them would be it'll be a lot easier. Like January 6th, in my opinion, was totally fabricated. And I mean, they even had to spend some time making videos, in my opinion, to like roll out later, and suppressing videos by having the FBI go to anybody's house who actually had the nerve to put a video up or be in a video of the actual day, because the day was so peaceful. They just could not have that there. But I think if you stole the election, or if the propaganda said that you stole the election for the Republican, it'd be much easier to get Democrats to rise up to. They've practiced like the Black Lives Matter protests and everything in the wake of George Floyd, which was like a weird case. Like this would be even more galvanizing, I think. So, there's definitely arguments in favor of predicting a Trump victory, but there was a Kamala headline which really annoyed me, or this was a line from an article. Speaking of, the vice president's campaign released a new ad Tuesday to highlight her plans to build 3 million housing units as part of her platform to curb inflation. So, in the immortal words of Milton Friedman, inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. You get inflation when you have more money in the system, and that comes from printing more money. And the way we print money, we have a debt-based currency. It's horrible to contemplate. Like don't bend your brain on it right this second. It's super crazy. They just like the banks like either get a dollar or fabricate a dollar and then lend out $7. So all of a sudden, or whatever it is, it's like it's infinite now. The reserve requirement, I think, still is at 0%. But because we have a debt-based system, the more deficits you run, the more debt the government, borrows, which whatever, it gets really complicated. But that is where inflation comes from. You cannot spend your way out of inflation. You can only spend your way into inflation. So if she's planning on building 3 million homes, that means debt and deficits and inflation. So I don't like that. I don't like the policy, but I really hate the bad economics of it. All right. Another big thing I keep hearing on Fox News, Jake Sullivan, who's the national security advisor for Biden. He is in China right now, or last news cycle, he was in China meeting with some people I had not heard of. Definitely Chairman Xi, which Jake Sullivan, I know who he is. He does the press conferences and he's extremely deep state. Look up his wiki. I'll put it in the show notes at monicaperezshow.com. He is ridiculously deep state. Just Yale, Rhodes, Oxford, CFR, Brookings. He had some high level position at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, which, if you recall, it's the Carnegie Endowment that got us into World War I intentionally. That's in the congressional record. Anyway, so he's that guy for sure. So he could be over there calling the shots or whatever. He also met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Central Military Commission Vice Chairman General Zhang Yuzha. And it was the first meeting between a U.S. official and a Chinese military figure in that role since 2018. So when I see some person going someplace physically, I noticed this with Nancy Pelosi in Taiwan, and a bunch of other lawmakers went to Taiwan. And I noticed that John McCain used to do it. I think John Brennan used to do it. They'd go over, and then not too long after that, there'd be a false flag. Or in the case of Taiwan, there was it was all about the Semiconductor Chips Act. And I just think when they're over there, they're over there to talk privately, stuff that can't be monitored, that nobody could ever really find out. So he's probably over there, I'm thinking, doing something like that. And then I noticed that so often it's the last sentence of an article that gives you the money. It says Sullivan's visit comes ahead of a series of high-profile multilateral summits in the coming months that could provide a platform for Biden and Xi to meet again in what would be the twilight of Biden's presidency. So I'm thinking he's telling Xi, he's kind of pre-negotiating that. He's figuring out what they can ask for, what they're going to get, offering bribes or whatever. I don't know. The thought occurred to me that he could be doing Biden's bidding because his level of unbelievable corruption when it comes to selling influence or whatever to China is just shocking. It's absolutely shocking. And that too is in the congressional record, but you won't hear about it every day like you should. It's really amazing. But he didn't want to cut anybody in from what I could tell. So I doubt, I doubt Jake Sullivan's getting cut in, and that's and also Biden was doing it on a more private level, like a financial institutions level, not like a geopolitical level. So I don't think he could extort Xi personally for Biden's personal benefits. I don't think it's that. But Jake Sullivan's like the policy guy, kind of runs the world kind of guy, I think, or at least that's where he's connected into. So I imagine it's pretty high level stuff. It could be involved with the Taiwan thing and the semiconductor kind of embargo that we have against them. It could be the Philippines stuff that's happening in the Philippines right now. There is actually something happening right now in Beijing's. Here's a headline: in Beijing's quest for control of the South China Sea, a new flashpoint emerges. China is showing a growing willingness to escalate in the David and Goliath fight with the Philippines over the vital trade route. So what's happening there, we've talked about this before. We did a coup, as far as I know, in 2022 where we installed the son of our former puppet, I think is fair to say, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Bing Bong, maybe. He has a funny nickname, but he's a junior. He is now running Philippines again, even though the parents had to like escape in the dead of night kind of thing. But he's there, and what they keep doing is sending these like beaten up old boats to just the limits of their what they consider to be their international waters. And I think there's been some adjudication on that behalf that it landed on the side of the Philippines. I don't know if it was controlled, like I saw it referred to as a tribunal. And I mean, you could it's like the tribunals that award Trump's golf courses the award for best golf course, but they're like all employees of the Trump corporations. It's just some funny thing like that. I'm just saying you can be a tribunal without having any authority. But it seems reasonable to me that they do own stuff within a certain amount of their land like everybody else does. But China says that the entire South China Sea is theirs. So that's the territorial dispute. And I believe that we are definitely guiding the Philippines to make it look like China's being a big bully, and they're just making sure that they assert their rights by visiting the shoals, the little islands or whatever that are around them. The one thing that I found alarming was Commander of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Admiral Samuel Paparo, earlier this week suggested that the U.S. could escort Philippine ships through the South China Sea. So when China strafes these little boats and they kind of get crippled and hobble away, it's not going to end like that if it's our stuff. So that seems like yet another escalation. I don't know if they're just trying to scare us, but these hot points, Israel, Ukraine is escalating. It's just feeling very hot to me, like hot war. At the same time, you have always the hand in the cookie jar. So Biden is supporting the Philippines through the CHIPS Act, and Raimondo, is she still the Commerce Secretary? I think so. She said she expects $1 billion of investment there, and she recently led, maybe it's still ongoing, a delegation of many American businessmen over there. But they're getting government money. Like the CHIPS Act is about getting money from the U.S. government to build semiconductor plants for these super high level chips, as long as you don't get any supplies from China, you don't sell it to China. There are a lot of cordoning off, and that's what that's all about. As I realize that Biden always wants these payoffs, absolutely. The more I look into these things, from the octopus to the Biden stories, I think that these chips, whatever, the Philippines, the executives who are with the politicians, Biden, I don't know anything about Raimondo, but Biden definitely like pays to play or gets paid to play. I think they get their something for brokering these deals. And that's the name of the game. So Thailand is another target for their kind of brokering U.S. tax dollars to other countries. I don't get it. But here's a funny little thing. When I was like looking into China stuff, there's a remote, I'm sure there are many remote areas on the Great Wall of China, and one place where there's like a luxury hotel nearby or some kind of hotel nearby. This drone company or the hotel, I don't know which, set up one person on the roof of the hotel and one person on the top of the Great Wall, and deliveries, food or whatever, run up to the top of the hotel, give it to the drone guy. He clips it onto the drone, and the drone delivers it to the top of the Great Wall of China. So I coined DroneDash for that. I thought that was kind of cute. But I don't know what's up. I don't know if you can count the exchange rates, but they're saying it takes 5 minutes, it can carry 5 pounds, and the delivery fee is only 56 cents. So I doubt that is going to be what happens here, but I'm sure we're going to start getting this stuff here. Okay, but back to the chips. So we set up a lot of barriers for the Chinese to get chips from us or people we do business with. So here's the next headline. China's AI engineers are secretly accessing banned NVIDIA chips. Brokers are making overseas computing power available and offering a high degree of anonymity. So this is what they're doing. This supposedly does not break those export controls. It's a workaround. Whether it's intentional or not, I doubt it, actually. Anyway, it says a former Bitcoin miner established 300 NVIDIA-driven servers into a data center in Brisbane, Australia, and began processing AI algorithms for a company in Beijing. So they're taking all this capacity that was built up to mine Bitcoin, which is, I guess, no longer needed. I mean, I know they didn't get all the Bitcoin out, but I guess in the heyday when there's more left and the price is higher at the same time, that's going to get a lot of these servers dedicated to Bitcoin, and they're powerful and they're hot, from what I understand, quite like literally hot. Which, so something in this article, here's a quote. It said, "Renting faraway computing power is nothing new." So it's the servers are in Australia and the use is in China. But I just read an article today, I think. Definitely read it today, but I think it might have come out today, about building massive server farms in Arizona. So there's all this so somebody buys land speculatively thinking it's going to be a good place for a server farm. Then this other chick is making huge money buying that land from them, and then actually putting the infrastructure in, getting the electric, getting all that stuff permitted, maybe even built, and then taking that investment, which is like more than the land itself, and selling that as like a turnkey or like a pre-approved site for servers. But I'm thinking, this is in Arizona, which is crazy hot. And these things are super hot. And a big part of the electricity bill is the air conditioning. And I remember my realization of why there were farms in the South and factories in the North historically, because it's cooler in the North. You can't have factories running 12 months a year in the South where it's hot. You can grow stuff better in the South, but in the North, it's the best place to have factories. I feel like we're back in that spot now. Air conditioning kind of solved that, but this is out of control because it's not air conditioning for humans. It's air conditioning for the servers. So why they're not doing them in Alaska or Canada or Siberia? I mean, if remote computing is fine, I don't understand it. Maybe somebody does understand it and can tell me in the chat. So they said that you can't use just regular cloud computing, Google and Microsoft or whatever, because they have the KYC stuff, the know your customer stuff, which is highly maligned by anyone interested in privacy, because apparently they don't actually stop criminals really, but they do totally invade your privacy, highly surveillance oriented. Anyway, these server farms, whatever, are using smart contracts, which use crypto. They're public, but they're anonymous. They use blockchain. So it's kind of an extension of crypto. And a couple of other countries were mentioned: Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Singapore. I guess maybe those are places that are kind of establishing these farms. I don't know, but they are I don't know if they're gonna close that loophole. I just don't know. Anyway, speaking of crypto, here's another headline. How a colorful investor profited from a crypto giant's deal making. Christian Angermeyer introduced Tether to companies in which he held stakes and took cuts of some of the deals. I'm sick of these colorful people. They always sound created to me. Why do I need to know about their personalities? Why do they have to be colorful? Why do this guy seems like a con artist? Why is he? Maybe that the flair helps him, but I just most of it, like keep a low profile. I'll trust you more. So this article was weird. Like, it was a huge article in the Wall Street Journal about this guy, Christian Angermeyer. I never heard of this guy. And I didn't really understand the point of the article. There's a lot of interesting little tidbits, but my takeaway was this guy's being put in front of us for us to just know about him. And that makes me think it's like it's character development, that we're going to hear more about this guy and all of this over time, but they want us to know who this guy is, have an idea of what he's like, and then maybe roll out a story coming up. So he's a German deal maker, broker who does not seem to do a good job. Like, he does these deals, like it said in the headline, that they lose money, and still he keeps coming back for more. He keeps getting more, and he's being featured in the Wall Street Journal. So I'm thinking, okay, this guy seems like he's being created. He's being made rich. He's being paraded before us. And I dug into him a little bit, and his original partner is a crypto billionaire named Michael Novogratz. You might have heard of him. He also has kind of like lost a lot of money out of the gate, but ended up on his feet. Now he's a crypto billionaire. Like, these serial losses of money. You just got to, who's continuing to fund them? If people are losing money, but they're coming back for more, they're probably either they only lost half their money and their second bet was good, or they're being positioned. Like, I think that about George Soros positioned, and Peter Thiel was positioned, and like almost all of these guys, really, many of the big tech guys. So Michael Novogratz was a John Corzine's protege at Goldman. And this was something I had never heard of. And it totally raised a flag. He's a member of Kappa Beta Phi, which is an inversion of Phi Beta Kappa. So it's a secret society with only one chapter, a chapter that exists exclusively on Wall Street. And it was presented in the wiki article as a like a parody. And I was like, okay, maybe. But then I saw the list of prominent members, and the fact that they actually meet in person once a year. And like I said earlier, when they're meeting in person, I think they're cooking stuff up. And some of the members of Kappa Beta Phi are Michael Bloomberg, the aforementioned John Corzine, who I don't know if you know, look up MF Global if you want to know, a guy who got away with grand larceny, was the governor of New Jersey, a senator from New Jersey, the head of Goldman Sachs for a while. Larry Fink, who you know from BlackRock fame. Wilbur Ross, who is a Rothschild guy. Robert Rubin. Warren Stevens, who is the founder of the investment bank Stevens Inc., which has come up in this book as soon as yesterday when we read our 9th section of that. So a lot of characters there, and that this guy who's in that club was the original partner of this colorful young upstart, Christian Angermeyer. All right, so the story is that Tether, the stable coin Tether, so a stable coin, I don't know a lot about this stuff, as you know, but a stable coin is like 1-to-1 with the dollar, and it's supposed to feel not as volatile as Bitcoin. It's not volatile at all because it's 1-to-1 to the dollar. And to me, just theoretically, I mean, I assume the reason it exists is because that's actually a problem with Bitcoin. If you want something to be and crypto generally that has volatility. If you want something to be a medium of exchange, the exchange rate has to have some kind of stability. So if you say, I'm going to sell you this car for 1 Bitcoin, and the day you make that deal, the Bitcoin was worth $22,000. And the day you get payment, the Bitcoin's worth $42,000. You're going to break that contract. Somebody's going to break that contract, or it's just destabilizing to the point of it being untenable. So there are stable coins out there. Maybe they're going to be the foundation of the central bank digital currency. I don't know. But Tether is one of those. And most of its money. So I guess the way it works is it takes the money and it buys treasuries with it, because that's what gives it some stability. You can count on that. That's low risk. But then it's the treasuries that it's buying, because Tether is, I guess, it's one of the largest. It's a huge company, and it's one of the largest holders of treasuries in the world. So the article is saying these treasuries keep throwing off so much money because the interest rates are going up, that they can buy. And I guess the way it works is because they keep getting money, their old treasuries, when interest rates go up, the prices of treasuries go down. So if you've bought a bunch of treasuries, the actual value of that's going to go down. But if you keep buying them because you keep having so much more money, that's like called cost averaging or whatever, then ultimately it's going to go up. So they're saying they're making like 4% off of the treasuries, and they've got all this money. It's like to burn. So they're giving it to this guy. And in my, like the article, the investments they're highlighting here, he is burning the money, just thing after thing that is losing money. But there was a funny list of some of the things he's interested in, because he's a quirky guy. The psychedelics, dinosaur fossils, and this is a Peter Thiel thing that he's interested in, an Olympics alternative where athletes are encouraged to use performance enhancing drugs. Now, I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember the SNL skit of the All Drug Olympics. I actually named a drink after that on monicamixes.com. But in the skit, so Kevin Nealon's a reporter and Phil Hartman is a Soviet weightlifter. And this is the All Drug Olympics. It takes place in Bogota, Colombia. You can do whatever drugs you want before, during, or after. That doesn't matter at all. So these guys are pretty hopped up on whatever. And so Phil Hartman is the Soviet guy. He attempts a 1,500 pound clean and jerk and rips his own arms off. Remember that one? I would love to play the clip, but I'm sure it would make my YouTube thing go down. So he rips his own arms off. And Nealon, this is a huge catchphrase in my house. Just, you can imagine why. Nealon says, I think he's really going to feel that tomorrow. Like, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt tomorrow. So I guess that kind of happens when you have too many cocktails, but it definitely happens when you rip your arms off because you had too many whatever cocktails. So I guess they're going to do the All Drug Olympics. And another thing that they're working on, the next human agenda, is what Angermeyer's own company is really into, which invests in cryptocurrency, longevity stuff, psychedelic pharmaceuticals, and that he co-founded with Peter Thiel. Oh, no, he only co-founded with Peter Thiel the Enhanced Games, the All Drug Olympics, I'm going to call it. So, but another thing that he invested in was Northern Data, which is a German-listed Bitcoin miner that has recently pivoted towards AI cloud hosting. So this guy Angermeyer sold or brokered a deal of Tether to buy 2 former Bitcoin miners, one of which, like, I don't know if it was his brother-in-law or somebody, an employee of Angermeyer's family office was the founder of one of those Bitcoin things. Anyway, Northern Data lost a lot of money, hundreds of millions of euros, I think, from those 2 acquisitions. But I'm thinking, like, this is a second story in 1 day or 2 days that's talking about these Bitcoin miners moving into the AI field, rededicating their servers. And just like I think this move towards building up green energy over the past however many years may have been intentional to set up a you know a, other streams of energy production for AI, for the powers that be, anticipating AI before we were even knew about the plan. Maybe Bitcoin mining was a way to just get these super hot servers, a lot of servers up that, so that the AI thing wasn't unprecedented. The Bitcoin was like, well, it was okay when libertarians were doing it, so it's okay now. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, Tether keeps putting money into Northern Data, even though it does not seem to be making a lot of money. They're also putting a lot of money in BlackRock Neurotech, which is like Elon's Neuralink, and that's losing a lot of money, and they keep putting money into it. So I don't know if they're just laundering money or burning money, or it's a way to get this guy's fees, or they know something we don't know. I mean, I would think the AI stuff, Neuralink, all that stuff does sound like, it's not going anywhere. It's not going backwards. So I just feel like he's a what to watch out for guy. And I have an update. Do I have an update on the Telegram founder, Pavel Durov? I think the jury is in. I know what I think about him now. Let's do some comments. Angus, where is Biden? Is he MIA again? Do you think that he's long dead? Is that the idea? Right. The server farms, and they worry about me running AC in my house. Angus says, yes, that happens out here with water, like the subsidized farms or whatever. I don't know, nut farmers use water. Actually, Anthony Raimondo says there's absolutely enough water for everyone, but the water pressure that they expect to come out of our faucets, the limits on the faucets that they get, it's it's you can't really abide it. It's awful. And yeah, they want it for themselves. Kat Douglas, hi Kat. More to Monica's point as far as worrying about the energy consumption for AI. I'm right there with her on that. Yes, it looks like she was responding to something. Sorry, I don't see that. But I don't look, I don't even care about, I'm not looking to monitor energy consumption. But this stuff, maybe I'll get to it. I have another story about nuclear plants and how much we're funding that with taxpayer dollars, billions of dollars, towards bringing this stuff back online for the express purpose of pumping energy into this AI stuff. And that's not how it works. The reason it will displace jobs is that it's inorganic. So normally the way you determine whether you want to invest in new technologies is it cheaper to hire somebody, or is it cheaper to automate that? And as long as there are people to do the jobs, and jobs don't have to be complicated. You need people to run AI because they say you need AI, but you don't need AI. You don't need anything. You need a potato. That's what you need, and an egg. That's what you need. You don't need very much. And people are like one-to-one, like, one person's labor should feed at least one person. And we know that one person's labor feeds many more than one person. So when the marginal cost of labor gets high enough that you invest in more capital, then it doesn't really displace people because there's limits of labor. And the government, and this seems like something that was learned from like the Black Plague era, where there was a real labor got power. There was a real shortage of labor. They literally like conscripted people into labor, grabbed people and made them work. And I think they vowed, like the powers that be, feudal lords at the time, or whatever, kings, I don't know. Maybe their descendants still run the world. I really don't know. That they would never allow that to happen again. And it seems to me they take our tax dollars. I can tell you, they take our tax dollars. They invested in research. They invested in these things, and it takes our tax dollars to subsidize the capital and the automation that will replace us. And I don't want them to do that. And they wouldn't do that if we these AI stuff would not even exist if it weren't for those subsidies, in my opinion. Dave, Obama was created out of Illinois, which is Pritzker territory. Personally, I think he just serves a wing of the intelligence services like most. Yes, yes, that must have also been a response to other comments. Maybe I should go back and read. But the guy, uh, yeah, his family has tentacles to. I think his grandfather was in the CIA. The grandfather who raised him, I think, and was connected to his father. Jack Burton, Ripple will likely be the CBDC because it was never even mined, which makes it most similar to fiat. Oh, very interesting. I did not know that. Society of Order. From what I read, even when building to take advantage of outside temps, HVAC cost is only reduced by 13%. Land and centralization seem more important. For instance, Vegas has huge server farms. Yes, I walked through that one some time ago. Thank you so much. So if you want to send me a link of what you did, I can put it in the show notes, which people can find at monicaperezshow.com. So, okay, so it's only 13%, and that isn't enough to offset the value of these vast tracts of clear land in a place that doesn't have winter and is closer to where people are using it. Very interesting. Okay. All right, let me finish a little bit here. Pavel Durov. So I told you about him last episode 2 days ago, and he got arrested in France, and people were saying crying hypocrisy, and I'm thinking, I don't know anything about this guy, but could be a Western asset. So then there was an article yesterday or today in the Wall Street Journal that absolutely to me was a sheep dip. So like a sheep dip is the CIA term. The metaphor is you take a sheep. This is how they actually do it. And they put it in the chemical solution, and all the little critters come out of the wool, and then you shear it. So this is a way either to build a legacy or to get those critters out, because they know it's going to raise some eyebrows if people discover it on their own. So the Wall Street Journal says Telegram founder was wooed and targeted by governments. Pavel Durov had lunch with the French president 6 years ago. His phone was hacked the previous year by French and UAE spies. So they lead the article telling us about two things that were not previously reported. One was that he did indeed have lunch 6 years ago with Macron. And obviously there's evidence of that, or they wouldn't tell us. And then a year before that, there was something called Operation Purple Music, where the UAE and France colluded to hack his iPhone because they were worried about ISIS use of Telegram. Now, ISIS is us. So I don't know what the real story is here, but that doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes sense for propaganda, but it can't be true. It can't be the true reason. So to me, what I was thinking was, he started a Facebook in Russia, and Russia said, I want you to suppress the opposition, the anti-Putin stuff on your Facebook. And we're all like, oh, that's awful. And I'm thinking, here it's awful because they're suppressing us. When Facebook puts us down, suppresses stuff, they're suppressing us. They'll call it Russian bots, but even the Russian bots were Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn. They call it that, but it's us. There, it's also us because it was 2014. And the issue was Russia wanted to know about the Ukrainian protesters who were using this Russian Facebook called VK against the Ukrainian government. But you'll recall that in 2014, Victoria Nuland and Jeffrey Pyatt orchestrated a coup against the democratically elected government of Ukraine. So those protesters were working for us. And this was at that time. And Pavel was asked to reveal the identity of these guys, and he said no, and he left Russia at that time. So I'm like, oh, well, he was covering up for us. He's not necessarily a man of integrity. Maybe he is, but on the way out, he was accused by shareholders of VK of having absconded with a lot of that money to start Telegram, which then he did. And not too long after, had lunch with Macron. But the fact that the head of the article is Telegram founder was wooed and targeted by governments, I'm thinking this isn't the only one. So he says also in the article, it said Telegram says it now complies with the European Union's Digital Services Act, which requires online companies to cooperate with authorities in countering the spread of illegal content on their platforms. So he's saying, I cooperate. But the way they're reporting it, it sounds like it's a lie. So maybe this is a revelation of the method where it's like, I told you I was doing that, but we're inferring that it's a lie. I thought that was kind of interesting. The article says he has a long and complicated relationship with France and the UAE. They invested in Telegram. He has citizenship in both of those places. They say he admits to cultivating a personal image as an iconoclast, like breaking the icons, and fathered 100 children through sperm donations. I mean, a guy who builds an image on purpose, a personal image, that's a man who's doing that for a reason. What's the reason? He wants you to believe in that image. That's what con men do. They want you to have confidence in them, in that image. And that, to me, is a red flag. So now I'm thinking when the first thing I read after this whole big news about Telegram, founder being arrested in France, was that Telegram downloads surged. I thought, did they anticipate that? Do they care? I now think they absolutely anticipated that. And I'll tell you why. Okay, so just a few like other fishy things. He has many passports, which I think is like kind of fishy. Okay, here's a quote. The French passport allowed him to move freely in Europe, including a bike trip last year to Normandy. He traveled to the US several times. And the entrepreneur told the former Fox News host Tucker Carlson this year, adding that he's always greeted by Federal Bureau of Investigation agents at the airport and elsewhere trying to obtain his cooperation. Okay, so this isn't the part about why they like the downloads. I'll get to that in a second. This is just another thing that's weird. He's greeted by FBI agents. He says, my understanding is they want to establish a relationship with me and in a way control Telegram. The FBI refused to comment. So I'm thinking about that. And I'm thinking about this next thing, which is French authorities took him into custody Saturday night. And under French law, they have 96 hours or until Wednesday evening before they need to release him or charge him. And I'm thinking, just like Sullivan in China, this guy, they're debriefing him, giving him his assignments, whatever. If he's an operative, then this would be great because he's got private time with them for 96 hours. It builds up his image, but it also gets him to have a meeting with Macron without it looking weird, right? And the FBI is after me. It's like, yeah, well, do you talk to them? What do you say? What are they saying to you? So, okay. It says Telegram has been long a target of French intelligence. It's like, obviously, yeah. France's new hard line reflects growing concern, particularly in Europe, about the threat that big digital companies pose to society. They don't care about society. Authorities worry that Telegram, X, TikTok, and other platforms are spreading misinformation, fueling anti-Semitism and racism, and tolerating illegal commerce on their platform. A French law signed this year requires online platforms to cooperate with authorities in rooting out such content. That law is mirrored, listen to this, by the EU's Digital Services Act, which Telegram already says that it complies with, which subjects, quote, very large online platforms to enhanced monitoring and enforcement. Telegram said this week that it is still below the threshold of 45 million active monthly users that is required to be considered very large in the block. And there you have it, in my opinion, that when I read about the download surging, it was rising up the ranks to be bigger than some of these people, at least like in this one moment. Maybe they say it's still below the threshold, but my guess is they are trying to push it above the threshold so that compliance is way more comprehensive and they have to do it. And they've already said they're going to do it. So that's what I think is going on with this guy. And I'm calling it for created person. I could be wrong. I mean, I keep it open, but that's where I am as of right now. And I'm going to give you this last story about a nuclear power plant in Michigan that's being brought back to life. It says, this is a journal headline, surging demand for electricity and new investment in green energy drove the plan to restart Michigan's decommissioned Palisades plant. It would be a global first. I read that article and I'm like, AI. And lo, what is this? The second, third paragraph. It says, driving the rethink, soaring demand for electricity from AI server farms, and billions on offer in state and federal loans and tax subsidies for nuclear energy in infrastructure and green power investment programs. Data centers are projected to account for 8% of U.S. electricity demand by 2030, up from 3% in 2022. The federal government and the state of Michigan are spending nearly $2 billion to restart the reactor on the shores of Lake Michigan. And I found somewhere else that it was just decommissioned recently, and there were hundreds of millions of dollars of federal money dedicated to that. So where did it say that? It said Holtec purchased Palisades, that's the name of the plant, in 2018 before the state and federal incentives became available for a nominal fee, with the intention of tapping into a $592 million federal trust fund for decommissioning this plant. So it would be a crazy inversion if they got to tap into that money to recommission it, because that, of course, is not what it was. That would probably be illegal. But yeah, so they give all this money to decommission, give all this money to recommission, and it's for building AI farms, which I don't want. And it's federal money, so it's my money. I mean, whatever. It's really frustrating. Georgia, the state of Georgia, is doing it too, getting money, $12 billion in federal loan guarantees, which is worth money. Guarantees mean you are backing that up with your money. And the beauty part, some of this came from the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, which is described in this article as an infrastructure spending law. What did we say? Spending in this day and age is deficits and debt. We have a debt-based currency. Spending is inflationary. It's like I need a completely upside down emoji for this, because the inversion, like in every single story, it's making me crazy. So, and the last thing I noticed was, like, there was one other article in the journal about an old article, but when I was Googling for more on Michigan and electricity, I found this article from just 2 years ago. It said, electricity blackouts are coming to Michigan. The shutdown of a nuclear power plant makes the state vulnerable to cloudy, windless days. So this was just 2022. They were saying that shutting down the plant would be bad. I mean, I just don't understand it. That must have been like, they must have had to roll this out for political reasons in just certain way. So I'm thinking, well, do they really have the blackouts? Because if they want to bring that nuclear power plant back, that people are going to need to support it, and they're only going to support it if it's annoying to them. So maybe they're enforcing these artificial blackouts. So I Googled that and found from yesterday, a headline in USA Today: Michigan power outage map. Over 330,000 homes, businesses without power across the state. So what are you going to say? We do need that nuclear power plant. We do. Anywho, this nuclear power plant is going to suck in 390,000 gallons of Lake Michigan every day into its secondary cooling system. And that is definitely going to warm that water. It's going to have an impact. Maybe I don't understand how it works, but if you're using water to cool something, the water should be getting warm, I would expect. And I'm guessing they're putting it back into the lake, which of course is going to cause probably algae blooms and who knows what else. So, look, we're not getting to where this is caused by free market capitalism. So I'm not even going to answer that question like, well, do you want regulation? This is from the entity that claims that it's for regulating things for the benefit of the people. Nuh-uh. Okay, so let's end on a light note. This is out of England, and it's very funny. It's very Keystone Cops. Reminds me of a lot of jokes about British cops. But I didn't like, it's funny. The whole thing's funny. It's not like there's a huge punchline at the end, but I didn't like at the end when one of the cops was not being effective and she turns her attention to an easier target. That kind of, I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but that kind of irritated me. But the whole thing is pretty funny. And with that, I shall leave you. Thank you so much for coming. This is Monica Perez.
On the floor now! On the floor! Do not touch me! On the floor! Just throw him over there, look! On the floor now. On the floor. On the floor now.
4 officers. One guy.
Where you are now?
Get to the floor. Get to the floor. Get to the floor.
On the floor now. Move back.